Percentage of a number. Okay, what I'll do first is to just go through some of the information I've got on screen, and the first thing I'll talk about is the green box. And the green box tells you an important piece of information that you need to keep in mind whenever you're working out percentages of a number. This tells you that a percentage of a number is always less than the number you start with. So just keep in mind that whatever you're doing a percentage of, the number that you start with is going to be smaller for the answer. You're not going to get anything higher than what you started with. So for instance, down here, 50% of 10, the answer cannot be more than 10. Okay, just a couple of hints here. Number one, keep in mind that 50% means a half. So it's a half of the number that you're finding out. So here's the number that you're looking at. A half of that number is 50%, or 50% is half of it. And that follows then that 25% of a number means 1/4 of that number. Okay, so those are a couple of things to keep in mind as you're working through. And finally, before we start, you need to use a calculator for this. I mean, you don't have to, but it would be easier if you did, because the actual calculation of the numbers is probably not quite as important as the method that we're using at the moment. So let's just jump down to the bottom to the red box, and at the end, before you make your decision on the answer, you have to ask yourself this question: does the answer make sense? If it does, then it looks like you'll have the right answer. Okay, so let's start doing it now. So first of all, 50% of 10. Now the first thing you need to know is that the word of means times. So that means times. So now we can multiply these two numbers. This is what we do. We say 50 multiplied by 10 equals 500. And I'm going to write this over here. We've got 500 here. And now we use a decimal point, and we start counting from the right, and we go and jump over places. So here's the first one. Could it be 50? Now it can't be 50 because we only started with 10. Remember, it's got to make sense. Okay, so let's write down 500 again. And this time we're going to go one place, two places, and we put the decimal point there. Could the answer be 5? Does it make sense? Well, half of 10 is 5, so your answer there is 5. Okay, next one. Just remember that of means times, lots of. Alright, so what we do is we take the two numbers, 35 and 60, and we multiply them. And when you multiply them, this is where you can use your calculator. So the answer, when you multiply the two numbers, is 2,100. Okay, we go the usual routine now. We find out whether the answer makes sense by putting a decimal point in. So first of all, the answer cannot be 2,100 because we started with 60. So it's got to be a lot less than 60. So we'll jump over here to 210. No way. Jump over here, 21. Does that make sense? Well, let's try this one. 2.1. That's no good. 2.1 is too small. Remember, it's 35% of 60. So let's go back here and let's find out if that makes sense. Yep, that must be 21. So we put down here the answer of 21. Okay, next one. 25% of 7. So we'll cross that out and say 25% multiplied by 7. And when we just deal with the numbers, we say 25 lots of, or times 7. And that gives you the answer of 175. Okay, so now we use the decimal point to see if it's going to make which number makes sense. There's no way it's 175 because it's got to be less than 7. So there's no way 17.5 because that's still more than 7. So let's write those digits down again, 175, and this time we'll jump over 2 decimal places. We'll put the point there. Does that make sense? Certainly looks like it to me. It must be 1.75. Right, next one. 70% of 15. Remember, that is a time sign now. So now we've got the two numbers that we're looking at. We've got 70 and 15. 70 times 15. And the answer is 1050. Right, so we want 70% of 15. So remember what it says at the top, it must be less than 15. So it can't be 1050. It can't be 105 because it's still over 15. Could it be 10.50? Yep, that's the one it could be. That's the only one that makes sense. So it's 10.5. You put the 0 on if you like. Makes no difference. Okay, and the very last one. Multiply the whole numbers together. 23 times 25. And you finish up with the number of 575. Right, so here we go again. We use a decimal point. Could it be 57? No, because it's still more than 25. So jump over again. Could it be 5.75? Does it make sense? Yes, it does. That's all it could be. 5.75. So that's how it works. Just to go over it again, multiply the whole numbers, and remember that of means lots of or times, and just multiply the whole numbers, and then use a decimal point and ask yourself this key question: does this answer make sense? Okay, that's it.